the birthplace of the Bohemian Revolution, from Cowork 591 Studios in beautiful downtown Jesup. This is the Steve Brown Arts Center Podcast Network with producer Blake Tempus. He's going to be college graduate Blake Tempus here in about 1 month.
He'll look good in a tassel, won't he? So.
Yes, he will. And co-host Dale Rueber. I'm Jim Gillespie, and this is the Jesup News for April 15th, 2024. It's Patriots Day.
Is that right?
It's Patriots Day.
Okay. Did you get me a present? Or?
No. Not yet.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Yeah.
It's early on. The marathon hasn't started yet.
Oh, okay.
So,
all right.
Tonight, Dale has a little baseball for you. I'm going to talk about the Boston Marathon, which is just starting right now. We're going to talk about Edward Everett, the Battle of Britain, Library News, Farmers Day, and Littleton Free Watermelon Day. Going to give you a weekly update of the Steve Brown Arts Center. We're going to talk about retirement a little bit. Dale just doesn't realize
we're expert about that, huh?
We are.
Right.
We are. Then we will talk a little bit about where we're going as far as the arts. With that said, the Steve Brown Arts Center is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that has a vision for artists, young and old alike, to have the opportunity to better themselves while helping to build the skills of those around them. The long-range vision is to house a rural artist residency program for professional and emerging artists in all areas of the arts and the humanities. Artists will be offered accommodations and studio space in exchange for contributions of labor and maintenance of the buildings and the ground. Follow and rate as well as tell a friend and let everybody know about this podcast, the Jesup News. We will try to keep this going as long as we can. So we are right around 70 shows right now.
Is that right? That's quite a few.
Okay. Yeah, at least 70 shows.
Yeah.
With that said, Dale, it's Boston Marathon Day today, and like I said, they're just starting right now. And we were talking about gambling earlier. Mm-hmm. You can make a bet on that, but I'm going to challenge you. Let me give you some numbers on the Boston Marathon. A marathon, if you recall, is 26 miles and 2/10 of a mile.
Yeah, like 300 yards or something, right? Or something.
Right in there. It is fastest Boston Marathon was run by a Kenyan back in 2011 at 2 hours and 3 minutes and 2 seconds. Mm-hmm. The fastest woman was an Ethiopian woman by the name of Anesh Diba. She ran it in 2014 at 2 hours and 19 minutes and 59 seconds, which is incredible. Dale, I know you work out on the treadmill. Mm-hmm. What is your mile pace on the treadmill?
I do 120 steps a minute.
120, which is
3.5 miles per hour is what it says on the machine.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right.
So, and I counted, it's 120 steps, which is the same as when you're marching. It's 120 steps a minute. So,
is it really?
Yeah, if I remember correctly. But
interesting.
So, I thought it was interesting because it's a nice pace. Because sometimes, like I do it for an hour, and you try to keep your mind active. And so sometimes I count cadence or little marching songs or whatever just to keep my mind going. And then I watch the clock and I do fractional parts and then I do decimals and it's crazy. But otherwise, it's a very treadmill running is not a lot of fun. So you just do things to keep your mind active.
You do a faster mile than I do. I keep track of my miles during the day. My dog takes me for a walk about 6 times each day.
Yeah.
And the dog is kind enough to let me stop and smell and pee once in a while. And so because of that, my mile pace is right around 3.1 miles per hour.
Okay.
So it's a little slower.
Think your dog ever wonders if he's on the wrong end of the leash?
I'm sure.
This guy, holy cow.
But anyhow,
yes,
Dale, My question is,
I'd bet on the Kenyan. Yeah. Okay.
well,
go ahead.
the Kenyan was the male, and the Ethiopian was the female.
Yeah.
Um,
But they got married, and their kid lives in Kenya with him, and he's running this year.
how do you know this?
I just made it up.
Oh, okay.
I thought that would be nice, you know.
It would be. The fastest marathon ever was male. Was set by Kelvin Kiptum. Nike sponsored him. His intention was to go under the 2-hour mile, or under the 2-hour
Yeah.
marathon.
Okay.
And he ran at 2 hours and 35.
So like 13 miles an hour, right? He was running straight for 2 hours. That's amazing, I think.
That is. There is a special shoe I've talked about. I've talked to a number of college runners about this. And Nike has developed a shoe that actually does make you faster.
Okay.
But
Acme's got these shoes you can put little rockets on and zip down the trail, see, so.
You've been watching too much Road
I
Runner
know.
and
I've heard that many
Wiley
times
the
before. Yes.
Coyote.
Yes. Okay.
The fastest woman was a lady from Kenya. She ran in 2 hours and 11 minutes and 53 seconds, which is incredible, Dale. That's men's time.
Yeah.
That's men's time. You know, distance running is where women are closing in males, or females are closing in on males as far as athletic ability.
Mm-hmm.
But you think of what they're doing, they're running sub 6-minute miles for 26 times over. It's remarkable.
Yeah.
The over and under, our gambling question for the week is this, Dale. Will the Boston Marathon, the male winner, be under 2:05, 2 hours and 5?
Okay.
And will the female runner be under 2:20, 2 hours and 20 minutes?
Well, I would not think the male runner could make it in 2 hours, 5 minutes, you're talking?
Yeah.
Because history's against you, right, with that?
Yeah. Well,
That'd be awful fast.
2011 was the last one. But you're talking those shoes as well, though, Dale.
So the shoes are new this year.
No, they've been around a while.
Okay.
They've been around a while.
But you think they'll make that much difference?
Well, it depends on, the Boston Marathon is one of the fastest marathons in the world because it's so flat.
Well, I'll say no. I don't think they can do it.
And I would agree with you.
Oh, okay.
I would agree with you.
All right.
Under 2:05 is incredible.
Yeah.
And the woman's question is under 2:20.
And what's the women's record?
2:19:59.
Okay, so I would say no there.
I would agree. It is going on as we speak right now. Here are some unique facts about the Boston Marathon. It is the oldest. It dates back to 1897, and the fastest. The median time is 3 hours and 44 minutes in the country. Racers pick up their bibs and chips at the John Hancock Sports and Fitness Expo. It's the largest expo in the world. There are 200 exhibitors. There are harpists dressed as angels and elite athletes attempting to break the treadmill marathon there at that exhibit. It has perhaps the most famous incline in running at Heartbreak Hill, and it has a reputation as being a doozy. One of the only 26.2 milers held on a weekday because it is Patriots Day. So it's during the week.
Okay.
Women were officially excluded from the race until 1972. And I can remember seeing a documentary about this. A number of women trained for this. Only one woman could make it for some reason. Her name was Catherine Switzer, famously entered as KV Switzer. And in 1967 was nearly stopped by official Jacques Semple. Our Swift sister dodged his grabby hand and ran on to cross the finish line in 4 hours and 20 minutes. The first woman to finish the Boston Marathon in 1960. In 1951, Korean American runners were denied entry because the Boston mayor said any Korean should be fighting in the Korean War. You can tell what kind of country we were at that time.
Oh yeah. Is it the Boston one where I think her name was Rosie? She rode in a cab for several
It was the
miles.
Boston
Was that the
Marathon.
Boston one?
Yep,
Yeah. So
yep. They don't write that. They don't write about that very often. I've seen a documentary about Rosie as well.
Yeah.
She's down in Florida. She gave an interview about that not too long ago.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a bad thing about
bad
it.
memory, yeah. Anytime somebody cheats, but you think when she showed up at the finish line and said, "Gee, she's not even sweating," you would think they would have been suspicious. You know, but
As the final finishers run through the line, race director Dave McGilvray heads back to Hopkinton where the race starts and runs a 26.2-mile course in memory of his grandfather, as he's done for 39 straight years.
oh wow.
More than 1,000 media credentials are issued for outlets around the world. Writers, photographers, and announcers are handed a cheat sheet with descriptions of the elite runners' outfits and phonetic pronunciations of their names. Phonetic, thank you. It takes a village from water stop duties to porta potty patrol, more than 1,000 volunteers.
Yeah, I would bet.
It's incredible. Volunteers are on hand to ensure a seamless event. Start is located at 1 Ash Street in Hopkinton, Mass. The pretty building is adjacent to the line, also serves as a registration headquarters for the Boston Athletic Association. In 1987, the rope preventing the runners from crossing the start early was accidentally left in place as the gun went off, tripping one elite athlete. This rope has since been replaced by a rope or a chain of volunteers who moved just before the pistol fire.
Yeah.
Boston girls always battle. For the last 5 years, the first and second finishers in the women's race have been separated by 3 seconds or less. Aside from traditional olive wreath made from leaves picked in Greece, the first place winners snag a prize purse of $150,000 and an additional $25,000. He or she sets the course record. Not too shabby for a few hours' work. That's 3 times what the winner of Iditarod.
Do they pay like an entrance fee or anything?
They
You
do.
know?
I can't remember. It's not very
And-
expensive, though.
Okay, and can you, as a corporation or whatever, as an individual sponsor, to run for you? Like thinking you could bet on them if you have someone you train for this, and then you could bet on like you do like at a horse race or whatever.
Well, qualifying for the race isn't the only way you can get into Boston.
Uh-huh.
Special exceptions are made for limited numbers of media and select friends of race, as well as nearly 2,000 charity runners who raise over $15 million each year. So,
Okay.
like, if we wanted, the Steve Brown Arts Center, a 501c3, if we wanted to do this and raise funds, they would let us in. Let somebody like yourself start training, Dale, to do this.
I'm sure they have an age limit that would.
No,
I was thinking we could get Blake into shape and get him to win a couple marathons and put him in the race and bet on him and raise money that way.
Well, the oldest base, runners must be 18 years old in the marathon.
Yeah.
But there are no upper age limits.
Okay, so I could do it then.
You could. In 2012, Madonna Butter finished in 5 hours and 38 minutes at the age of 81 years.
81, yeah.
So you're just a young pup.
Well, we could do it together. I could be in the wheelchair and you could push me the whole way.
Well, speaking
that happens, doesn't it?
Speaking of wheelchairs, qualifying the wheelchair 38 years ago, the first official wheelchair participant, polio survivor Bob Hall, finished the race in 2 hours and 58 minutes, which is incredible.
Was that propelled it himself?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. In 2012, Shirley Riley won the wheelchair division, 1 hour and 37 minutes. So
1 hour?
1 hour and 37 minutes. Almost an hour faster.
And that's pushing. That's just running the wheel.
Yeah.
Okay. That seems incredible.
Oh, yeah. But it's also, you make the right kind of wheelchair.
Well, yeah, that's true too, yeah.
The Sunday evening, Boston City Hall Plaza welcomes hungry runners who chow down on 11,300 pounds of pasta and unlimited beer. Dale, we do have to enter this, okay? You eat the pasta, I'll drink the beer. Okay.
Okay.
The oldest baseball stadium in the world, Fenway Park, gets in on the tradition every year as well with the Marathon Monday home game. After the game, Red Sox fans and players stream out into Kenmore Square to cheer. So the loudest cheers on the course echo from Wellesley College campus. The all-girls school shows up in force with co-eds lining the streets in what runners affectionately call the Scream Tunnel. Hollers can be heard from hundreds of yards away, but runners have to get close to make good on the dozens of Kiss Me signs. That's a little bit about the Boston Marathon, and hopefully they go with little trouble this year. This is the Steve Brown Arts Center Podcast Network. Dale, what does Co-work have going on as far as this month as
Well, starting with
stuff?
Today, the 15th, the Dragon Express is here from 11 to 2 here at the Co-work. And do you know what they serve? Or I know it's not Dragon.
I'm guessing it is
Chinese or something.
Chinese
or Oriental,
or Japanese.
yeah. Okay.
Asian,
some stir fry or something. Okay, and then on the 18th, Gibby's Food Truck. Know that
Gibby's
one?
is good. I've used those. The Steve Brown Arts Center has used those before.
Okay, is that like traditional American
Hamburger,
hot dog kind of
hot
thing?
dogs,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, and on the 19th, the very next day, Charboom's Barbecue, and they're here from 11 to 6 also, and so you can have lunch and then come back and have something in the evening.
Oh,
So that's for both those 18th and 19th. So
okay.
the rest of the month on the 22nd, Two-Way, Tuwayy, Two-Way Catering is here on Monday the 22nd. Fat Roy's Mexican on the 24th from 11 to 6. And Judy's Food Truck also from 11 to 6 on the 26th of April. And then the 29th is the last one in April, and that's the Burritos Express. And they're just here 11 to 2, so it's just a lunchtime thing. I try to think how many of these I've had over, not too many, but the Burritos Express, I know they're very large burritos, and I think the barbecue one I've been to, maybe the Judy's Food Truck too, I don't know. Every now and then I come down and try one out. So, and it's I don't know how long food truck, I know they've been in Des Moines at the farmer's market and that sort of thing for years, but I think for around here, it's a rather recent phenomenon that there's so many of them out there are so available at different places. So
It's taken off. It's a good way to run your own restaurant and not have a building.
yeah,
There's
a way to make money doing it so you can get a building also. Like sometimes they go that way where they work real hard, make enough money, and
and make a reputation as well.
Well, that's true too. Yeah. Because restaurants, tough business.
Oh, it is.
And you see, I read the Des Moines paper and how many restaurants come and go every year. It seems like there's hundreds of them. It seems like, but it's a tough business, and you work hard.
Zach Knudsen was kind enough to buy the Steve Brown Arts Center a membership on the Chamber of Commerce, and I went to a speaker that the Chamber had. She talked about something like 4 and 5 businesses don't sell when they end. They just end.
Yeah.
Rather than selling their business. And I looked around the room, and there's a number of businessmen and women in the room, and I was thinking, well, who's going to buy their business? And who's going to buy their business? Because of that, buildings sit empty. Because those businesses fail.
Yeah. I remember where we're sitting right now, it was a business, and if I'm remembering right, they were trying to sell it. One person owned the land, one person owned the building, and a third person owned the business. And so they were having a terrible time, getting all that sorted out so they could actually sell, and it never did sell, and they tore the thing down, and now we have this nice building. So, but I remember Winger's Cafe in Hazleton, and I think they had maybe 6 booths. And then they had 10, 12 counter stools. That's as big as it was. And a tiny little kitchen. And it was a hamburger, hot roast beef kind of place. And the couple that owned it, was hooked onto a garage. And so the husband pumped gas and changed oil, that sort of thing. And the wife took care of the cafe. And they worked long hours, and they worked really hard. And I think they had a real good business, and they had a good life. But it was hard work, and that's a couple that I know that I've seen in this kind of thing. And it's tough to get people. Well, we talked to the man at the Sanity Room about how hard it is to get people you can trust.
Right.
And even though they might be making good money working for you and getting tips, and they still steal because there's so much cash available, and it's tough. So finding that competent and trustworthy help so you can have some time off is tough too for a business. And so I know Big Tony, he used to he would work Monday through Friday, and then Saturday morning he ran the garage and the gas station. And then I can't remember who he got, but Saturday afternoon he took off every week. And he would come home and he'd take his work shirt off, and he had one of those wife-beater undershirts, take off his shoes, and sit down and watch the game of the week on television with a big cigar and a can of beer. And that was his afternoon off. That's what he'd do with it. And then Sunday he was back down at the cafe in the garage again. Especially in the morning. He just opened in the morning then. But you did not want to. You could watch the game with him, but you didn't want to talk a lot. He just wanted to be left alone and enjoy it. So it was really wonderful man, a wonderful family there.
Interesting. That was Steve Brown Arts Center Podcast Network. I'm Jim Gillespie with co-host Dale Rueber and producer Blake Tempus. Dale, have you ever heard of the great orator Edward Everett?
Yes, I have. Yep.
So Edward Everett was incredible.
Yeah, he spoke before Lincoln at Gettysburg, right?
He did, yeah. You wrecked my story.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But a little bit about it.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. No, that's good. I asked you. That's what I get for asking you a knowledgeable man's a question. So I'm glad you answered it. Everett was an incredible orator for his time. He was a diplomat. Mm-hmm. He was a teacher. He was a pastor. You think of all of those, a pastor, teacher, and a diplomat, you have to be well spoken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you have to be good at in the African American community. You look at the incredible speakers, and a lot of them are ministers and preachers. Mm-hmm. That is because they have to be.
Yeah.
To lead a congregation.
Yeah.
Dale, who's the best speaker you've ever seen in public, maybe on TV?
Oh, well, there's a man, and I don't remember his name, but he's the pastor at the Hope Lutheran Church in Des Moines. It's a huge church.
Okay.
The parking lot's like a shopping mall parking lot. It's just huge. And that man, he's the lead pastor, and he is a fantastic speaker. Mm-hmm. And he does not believe in sermonettes. He gives you both barrels. He speaks. I've heard him speak maybe 5 times over the years, and he is very, very good. And I'm sure if you give me a few minutes, I'll probably think of others. But he's the one that probably most recent I've heard who is just an excellent speaker.
I heard Obama speak in public in Cedar Falls the first time he was running when he was just a young senator.
Yeah,
he was incredible. Governor Vilsack, he's Secretary of Agriculture now, was also a great speaker. He could go without notes, without a prompter or anything. He was a great speaker.
Yeah.
He did not have the speechwriter that Obama had or the presidents have.
Sure.
But he's one of the two probably greatest speakers I've heard live.
Okay, yeah.
Martin Luther King Jr. I loved his speaking cadence. Again, a preacher.
Yeah.
But I loved his speeches. Jesse Jackson. I heard Jesse Jackson. He was very good.
You've heard a lot of people in person.
I have. I've been real lucky.
Very good.
You know, at one time when a lot of those people were in the areas, and it's not like this anymore. They don't come to the small towns like they used to. But they used to come to all the small towns. Jesse Jackson was in Independence. Obama was in Cedar Falls and like that. I heard Andrew Yang multiple times, and Yang was all right, but he had a canned speech.
Yeah.
I heard the same speech probably 6 times.
I know when Obama, he must have been coming to Cedar Falls in a motorcade, and he went through Traer. And I had a friend living in Traer who was 90, but he lived 5 blocks maybe from the road. And he made sure that he made it down there in his little wheelchair and everything just to sit by the road, hoping that he could wave at
Oh, cool.
President Obama. Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
So he had a kind of a magnetic personality that got to really go with him, to be a fan, I guess you would call it, or a supporter. And but this man, he was bound and determined to be down there.
But Everett was asked to speak in November of 1863 by the people of Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
And he worked for months on practicing not only his cadence, but his body motions and his sound. And he would change it every day.
Sure.
Everett would work without a rope. He would not have a paper. He would memorize it. You think about that, how incredible that was. And a lot of teachers are that way, but it's not a speech. It's not a public speech either.
Yeah.
The speech he gave that November day was 1 hour and 59 minutes, almost 2 hours. You think of this, and I can remember when Fidel Castro was alive. He used to give 6, 7, 8 hour speeches.
I've heard that. Yeah.
Yeah, and you couldn't just walk away from
No,
it.
you had to stay. Yeah.
So, like I said, Everett would memorize his speeches. He would go without paper. He would practice his hand gestures. People wouldn't move. He was that good. You think about this, and today now people sit in front of their TV for 2 hours. That's basically like standing in front of a TV for 2 hours.
Yeah, but here you're in a crowd of people and everything, but that was entertainment for them.
Yes.
I mean, because people came for miles to see the Lincoln Douglas debates.
Right.
I mean, and there's no microphone or anything. They have to project and be thousands of people there listening. That was entertainment.
But like you said, Dale, Everett's speech at the Gettysburg Address was 1 hour and 59 minutes, 2 hours. And Lincoln then got up and spoke for 2 minutes. Lincoln's speech is memorized by a lot of people. If you go online, though, you can find Edward Everett's speech.
Oh, can you really?
You can if you get a chance.
Yeah. No, we had to memorize the Gettysburg Address in American history. It must have been junior year in high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that is Edward Everett.
Side note: do you remember an actor? There's an actor named Edward Everett Horton. Was a character actor in lots of movies in the 40s and maybe in the 50s, but most famous to me because he did Fractured Fairy Tales on the Rocky Bullwinkle show. He was a voice actor.
Really?
For cartoon,
Really?
yeah.
I remember the Fractured Fairy Tales.
Yeah.
I
So
did not know it was him.
if you heard his voice, you would know it. He had a very distinct voice, and but his name was Edward Everett.
I saw his picture today as I looked up the picture
Oh, did you
of
really?
Edward Everett.
Okay,
Yeah.
So I thought you wonder how he got, if his parents did that on purpose, or always how people get their names is an interesting topic sometimes, and so.
I'm watching a movie it's a short series called The Tourist, and in the Tourist there's a character called Donald McDonald. And Donald McDonald's got a wife, and his wife talks about how, she gets real angry with him. She says, I would leave you, but there's so many Donald McDonalds in the world I can't get away from you. So you're right. People do name their people.
I have often wondered if men that have, let's say, unusual last name, like there's people whose last name is Hogg,
right,
and things like that. If it's hard for them to find a wife, someone who will willingly change their name to match theirs,
Right.
Just seriously, because there are so many things. Geez, I don't want to be called Mrs. Hogg the rest of my life, or I think it was Hogue or something. But and there was a family. They named the girl Ima, and they were from the Dubuque area, I think. Ima, and then Hogg was the last name. They named their daughter Ima, and I thought, well, that's terrible,
Yeah.
But and I'm not making a joke. I mean, this was a real person, and you think. That'd be a girl who want to get married very young, I would think, and change her name. But
there was a man whose father was a serial killer, and I don't remember who it was. He took his wife's name when he got married.
Yeah. Well, in my family, my grandmother on my dad's side is a Plagencool, and they researched their family back to Germany, and it found out that Plagencool, the land could only be inherited by someone named Plagencool. She was the only heir. So when she got married, her husband changed his name to Plagencool so that they could keep the land. And so we're really descended from a woman instead of a man on that side of the family. That was one interesting thing in my family history. That's about the only one, but it was that was different. A bunch of money grubbers, and then the Ruebers came over to avoid the German draft. so not only were we money grubbers, but we don't want to fight either. So it's interesting sometimes to do those histories. There's always somebody in most families that was willing to do all that work. And it wasn't me, but I was glad to read it. And so,
well, Dale, you've got you got a few things about baseball. What do you
I
have?
was just thinking, it's baseball season. I was thinking about baseball over the course of my life, and the good and the bad. And I was thinking of something. One time, something good. I must have been 10 years old, and I had a friend named Tony Wingert, and he hit first and I hit second. In this game, I think 3 times he got on first, and then I hit into a double play. So he was mad at me because I was too slow and I couldn't hit. So anyway, the last inning, a guy on second, a guy on third, and we're down, and I'm up at bat. There's 2 outs. And so I swing real hard with my little bat, and I hit it right off the end of my bat, and it goes swirling, curling out over the first baseman's head, just barely. And he's turning in a circle trying to figure out where the ball is. So it drops safe. The 2-run score. We win the game.
You win.
So that you would call that a walk-off. But it didn't call it him. So I'm real happy. Wow. I won the game, and I go up to Tony expecting him to be, and he says, "I'm not going to congratulate you for a crummy hit like that." So I went from real high to real low just real quick. And so and another game I was on the sophomore team, JV team, and went with the varsity to games in high school, our first year up there. And we were it was, district or sub-district, one of the earlier in the state tournament. And so I'm just sitting there watching the game, and it's the last inning, and we're starting, and we are down. And so the coach said, "Rueber, get up there and hit." Oh, man. So I get up there, and the guy is throwing bullets really fast. There's no way in the world. So I just stand there, and I get 4 balls in a row.
Right.
And so I walk down to first. Well, then he puts in a runner for me, of course.
Runner, yeah.
Yes, because I wasn't out very fast. So they put this freshman kid in. So the next guy makes it out, but the kid gets to second. Next guy makes it out, the kid gets to third. Must have been tied. Kid gets to third. And so then we have Jack King gets up there, and he is very, very fast. And so he lays down a bunt.
Right.
And the kid scores from third, and Jack makes it to first, and so we win the game.
Right.
But who gets, Kenny Bash, the kid running for me, he's the one that scored the winning run, see?
Scored.
So I'm going, and I got nothing, see? So I had no strokes at all for that. And so I thought, I didn't think about that. So years later, I should have gotten a pat on the back or something. But because you're so far removed from the actual reward of the whole thing, people forget. And then the last, and this is, and honestly, I didn't think of this till years later, but that same year, the next game, we're playing in Independence. And we're down the whole game, and then at the last inning, we can win. We got guys on base, 2 outs, and the kid up there batting, he takes a strike. Well, he has taken strikes all evening and struck out every time. And so the coach, he says, "Dale, can you hit this guy?" And I said, "Well, sure I can." So I get up there with my little bat, and I had a big bat by that time. But the guy said, "Okay, you have 1 strike on you already." So the first pitch was inside, and I hit it hard, and it went down the third base line, but it was foul. But it was a nice hit. Then the second pitch, I really go after, well, it's a big old roundhouse curve, and I miss it, boom, and so I strike 3, and I'm out. And so here I think, if I'd hit that ball and scored those 2 runs, we'd have won. I had my name in the ON register, Rueber, hit. But because I did nothing and struck out in this other kid's name, I wasn't even mentioned in the box score. So,
right.
So it just shows you how close you get sometimes, a pitch one way or another, curveball, fastball, whatever, in the wrong spot, and you go from could have been a great hero to actually and it wasn't a goal. I just was nothing. Everybody said, you only had 2 strikes. It wasn't your fault, and this sort of thing. I said, yeah, but you still feel bad that you let the team down, and this sort of thing. And so anyway, just reminiscing because of baseball season coming up, and it's a grand game, and it's going to be kids playing here pretty soon when school's out, and I hope that a lot of kids sign up and play baseball. And I hope the coaches are. I was coaching Little League up here, and the first game, this boy gets up there and he just stands there and he gets 3 strikes and he's out. So I'm talking to him. I said, you need to swing the bat. This sort of thing. One of his friends came over and said, well, he's not supposed to swing. And I said, what do you mean? Well, the coach last year told him not to swing ever, and maybe he could get a walk. I said, we're not doing that. I said, so he was up there swinging and never hit the ball all year until the last game, his last at bat, he hit the ball out into right field and got on first, was a base hit. And his fellow teammate, they were around him, so happy for the kid. And I thought, that's one of the great moments in baseball.
Right.
And the kid felt really good, but also you need to watch these coaches, young kids. The idea is not to win the game so much as to do something for the kid.
Right.
And so, but so there's just a little baseball story. It mean absolutely nothing to anybody, but they mean something to me. So I thought I would share.
Well, thank you.
Did you play a little ball?
I did. I did. I was skinny and was lucky to hit my weight. I was a bad hitter. I let my uncles down. My uncles were famous baseball players in Northeast Iowa. Bensons were their names.
Okay.
One of them tried out, made the Yankees organization, then got drafted into World War II. Merle Benson was his name. Got injured in the war. Never got to play an out.
Yeah.
So,
the local hero in Hazleton, he had a creamery, and he was the manager of the creamery. His name was Al Reinhardt, and he and a man named Roy Oakes were coaching our Little League team. Well, Al Reinhardt grew up in Oklahoma, and he had once played youth baseball. He was the third baseman, and Mickey Mantle was the shortstop on that team. And so we just, whoa, because that was in the 50s, and Mickey Mantle. So you wouldn't think that would happen, but it did. It's just a guy that had played baseball with Mickey Mantle was running the creamery in Hazleton. So I don't know how those things happen, but it did. So,
it happens.
Yeah.
It happens. So, what is the old game? You're 5 people away?
Oh, yeah.
Is it 5?
Yeah, from that one from the actor,
Yeah.
5
people away.
From Kevin Bacon.
Right.
Yeah. And I don't know. Of course, you don't know who you've run into over there. Maybe you were on an airplane once with Kevin Bacon and you wouldn't even know it. But
that's right. That's right.
But it's interesting how they can do that. And they say there's millions of people they can trace back that have some kind of relationship with George Washington. Is some kind of a relative of George Washington over the years. That over the years, that DNA gets spread out far and wide, and over 200 and some years. A lot of us are really. You might be my cousin or something. It's possible. But,
Genghis Khan in Asia at one point, was considered the heir to, or not the heir, but the father of like almost 1 in 20.
Oh, is that right?
It was huge number.
Yeah. Because he had a lot of wives or being
a lot of wives and a lot of that's a giant. Blake, look that up. Genghis Khan Genghis Khan heirs. How many people are related to Genghis Khan on Earth? This is Steve Brown Arts Center Podcast Network. Thanks, Dale. I have one other story tonight about the Battle of Britain. 1940s, and there was a pilot, and I wish I could remember his name, but there was a pilot trying to protect, and he caught. Did you catch it?
1 in 200 men.
1 in 200. I said 1 in 20. I was
1 in
off.
200
1
men.
in 200.
Yeah.
I knew it was something like.
That's still
that.
a lot of people, though.
Oh,
it's a high populated area.
Yeah.
So.
But anyhow, this pilot was protecting London, and he went up. And he wondered what part of London the bombers that he got in his sight were trying to bomb. And he had 3 bombers in his sight. He shot down 2 of them, and he lost the 3rd one. He saw him off to the side, and this bomber or this man turned his blade and fired on him, and he was out of bullet. And so he decided to fly into this 3rd bomber, and he flew into the tail part, so he wouldn't die. And the bomber kept flying away, but then all of a sudden he watched as the guys in the bomber bailed out. But then he realized that he had to bail out as well, and so he bailed out, and his plane crashed 6 blocks from their targets. Their target was Buckingham Palace.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so the guy saved Buckingham Palace. And yeah, you've gotta think, why doesn't that happen more often? The capital city is one of the main goals of any country, any invading country of another country. That's interesting.
I was reading something just the other day, and English had this Enigma machine. It was the Germans' coding machine, and they knew from reading the coded messages that a certain town was going to be heavily bombed that night. And they told Churchill about evacuating, and he says, if we evacuate, they'll know that we're reading their mail, their radio messages. And so he let the attack go on with a large loss of life. But in the long run, it saved many, many people because the Germans never changed their code, and so they were ahead of them all the way. To have to make that kind of decision, well, what does that do to a person? That's really hard. So
there was a movie about how they broke the code out 4 or 5 years ago. A wonderful movie. One of the guy that broke the code was not a very popular man, so he doesn't get a lot in history. As a matter of fact, he was a homosexual man. He was a gay man. And so not a lot was said about him until this movie came out, like I say, 4 or 5 years ago. But yeah, they had the code. They had the code, and the war still went on forever and ever.
Yeah. There was a movie several years ago now where I think it was an English submarine was trying to capture a German submarine and get their code box out of that submarine and then sink the submarine so the Germans would not know that they had gotten it. And it was a very exciting movie, and just shows the importance they put on those things. And there's several books about breaking the Japanese code also.
Right.
And the Japanese, I don't know if it's arrogance or whatever, but they never changed their codes because they believed they were so superior that no one could break them. And so the Americans were reading a lot. They couldn't read 100%, but they were reading a lot of their messages during the whole war. And mainly there was a Japanese general that they learned was going to be flying in an unescorted plane from one spot to another, so they made sure they got up and shot him down. And that was all because they were intercepting messages and breaking the code. So that's why you got to keep changing your pin, Jim. So
that's right, exactly right. So 1, 2, 3, 4 doesn't work, huh?
Well, it works. It works for everybody. That's the problem, though. Sir.
Okay.
Do you know about lemon verbena?
Tell me about it.
Lemon verbena is a flowering shrub. Where's it from?
I'm going to guess verbena. Verbena, don't tell me. It's got to be Eastern Europe.
South America.
South America, okay.
Yeah, and so its leaves and flowering tops are used in foods, and they are using these in teas and as an essential oil, and it's the Jesup Public Library's Spice of the Month.
You got a package in there.
I got a package. There's a package in here, and it's looks kind of like oregano, little green leaves.
It looks like something that may be illegal is what it looks like, Dale. But
well, I have no experience, but I will defer to you,
don't,
Mr. Pothead. Okay, but they have 4. Is it 1, 2, 3? Yeah, some recipes in here. Lemon verbena cookies, where you can use this to flavor cookies, and there's a lemon verbena dip. You can use with, I imagine, chips, or they sell vanilla wafers is real good.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So maybe it's more like a cookie dip than a salad, or like a carrot dip or something.
We'll have to try that sometime.
Yeah.
Deal.
Well, we have Blake make us some. A lemon verbena cake.
You should have seen that look that you
Didn't
just
he?
got from
He didn't
Blake.
like
You
that,
do
huh?
want to see that look.
He doesn't think I have very good ideas, I don't think. But there's a nice cake here. You can flavor it with lemon verbena and preheat the oven to 180. Oh, that's 180 degrees Celsius. I thought, gee, that's not very hot, but 180 Celsius is hot enough. Or zucchini noodles. Okay, do you like zucchini?
No.
No, okay. Well, you would if they made it into noodles flavored with lemon verbena.
Okay.
So.
Do you like squash?
Actually, more than I thought I would. My wife made me we had butternut squash. Every now and then we get one of those, and I eat half and she eats half, and you put a little butter and brown sugar in it and bake it, and it's pretty good. So I do.
It's the butter and the brown sugar that
Well,
you like.
actually, that's very true. Yes.
Yeah.
That's very true. So anyway, go to the Jesup Public Library and you can get the Spice Club lemon verbena and give it a try. So actually, I was thinking maybe, is this yours or?
You can have
Can I
that.
have it? Maybe I'll give it a try. I'll make
right.
a cake or something and bring you a slice.
Oh, thank you.
I won't bring Blake any though. So
All right.
all right.
I'll share it, Blake. I'll
Will
share.
you really?
I'll share part of my.
Bootlicker, you're just trying to get in his good graces. That's all.
He carries us. This is Steve Brown Arts Center Podcast Network. Dale, how many years have you been retired now?
18.
18.
Yeah.
I have been retired. This is the start of my. This summer will be the start of my 6th year. So this will be the end of my 5th year this summer.
Yeah.
So the time goes fast.
It does. It does.
You look at retirement and Dale, when you retired that first year, did you know what you were going to do with yourself?
No, not really. But I had to provide child care for one of my grands. And so right after I retired, June, within, I guess, be August, I started doing that where I'd be down in Des Moines for several days a week. And I did that for about a year. And so the first year kind of took care of itself.
Yeah.
Just something I had to do. And then the next 2 years, my wife was still working, did whatever I wanted to do, see? So, yeah. As long as I had separated when she got home, everything was fine. So I remember one time just going up to Prairie du Chien to go to Cabela's for a while, a day, and she had no idea I had been up there or anything. And so, I don't know, I used to walk around the track and did a lot of reading, and I like to watch old movies, and so I didn't do anything really special that I recall.
Right.
But I did getting rid of responsibility. You know, like the responsibility you feel as a teacher is heavy, and getting rid of that and it's just sort of like a big load is lifted in some ways, where you can just relax and you sleep better, and you just are calmer, I guess, than perhaps you had been while you were working, because it's to being responsible for somebody. So when I lost that, I felt lighter, I guess is the way I should probably say it. So I don't know if that's bad or good. I know a lot of people go on working. You know, Dave Sabers is still working, and he retired, and then as manager, but he kept on. So I think he works from 6 to 5 every day. But he loves that. See, he loves that, and that's wonderful. But I was more. There was a man named Gilbert Stoddard. He came from a very famous Jesup family name, but he worked for the post office, and he told me that his goal was to be retired as many years as he had worked. And I said, okay, that sounds good to me. So that's what I'm working on, is to be retired as many years as I've worked.
That's a great goal.
Yeah, he made it.
He made it.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. So Dale, did you always want to be an educator? When did you realize you wanted to be a teacher?
There was a girl in my class in high school, and I didn't have any idea. I had no skills and no ambition. I just was blank. When I graduated high school, it's another time when that weight was lifted off. I was finally out of school. And so it was the time of the Vietnam War, and there was drafting people, so I just was no way I could stay out of the draft. So I actually joined for 4 years to get my head on straight. And while I was there, I got a letter from this girl that I had gone to K through 12 to school with. She was at UNI, and she said, you know, they have a real need for men in elementary education, and I think you'd be good at that.
Right.
Just in passing in this letter, and that's what got me to thinking about it. And so I think that's where it started.
So when you were a young boy, did you have any?
I wanted to be a cowboy.
You want to be a cowboy? Well,
a cowboy, and then a baseball player, and but mainly I thought I'm going to probably work at the elevator shoveling corn. You know, that was my mindset, that I would be a laborer.
My father, speaking of cowboys, my father was a professional rodeo rider.
Oh, is that right?
He was.
Okay.
He was. And from the time I can remember as a child, promoting me to be in the rodeo.
Okay.
He was pushing me hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember the first, they called them Little Britches Rodeo. Those
I've heard of that.
He took me to it, and all the way there I talked, yeah, I'm gonna ride a calf. I'm gonna be like Dad. I'm gonna ride a bull and be a bullback rider. And got there and I chickened out.
I don't blame you.
And the funny thing is, and I didn't see a disappointed look in Dad's face. He never said a thing.
Yeah.
He just said, "Are you sure?" And that was it. He up to that point, he'd led me there. But
something like that, you have to have a real desire for it, or you'll never make it. You never.
I heard a comedian speaking today, and he claimed the professional athletes have to be insane. You talk about, you look at ice skaters, you look at hockey players are going 25, 30 miles an hour on the ice on razor blades. And it happens almost once a year somewhere in the world where a man is cut and bleeds to death from
ice skating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have little girls that you would discipline them severely for jumping off their bed that vault off of 4-foot tables and land on pads. You have 30-year-old men that throw a baseball with a body that is not meant to throw a baseball at 100 miles an hour, Dale, and
people sometimes get hit in the head with that,
and they do. Yeah. They interviewed LeBron James recently, and he said, to be truly great athlete, you have to turn your back on your family.
Yeah,
and because you're spending all your time away, and so.
There's an article, this is somewhat related, an article just the other day, and they were quoting Michael Jordan, and he said he missed over 9,000 shots in his career. And I think it was 58 times he took the last shot in a game to win the game and missed. Right. And he had all these things. He said, it's not easy. You get all these successes and you think really, really great, but then the athlete knows how many times he didn't. Do it. And sometimes when it seemed like the whole world is counting on you and you can't produce, as all of us have run into that in one way or the other, it's hard to live, with yourself sometimes. And so you got to be able to turn your back on that. It's just like going 0 for 4 in the baseball game, and you got to show up again the next day. And you got to learn to live with failure. That's what baseball is a game of failure.
This is about the year that your son and Paul Yeager and those guys graduated in that era. We had a tremendous 6-on-6 team led by Kerry Wall. Used to be Kerry Zook.
Oh, sure. Okay.
And that group.
Yeah, I'm in 93.
And we played Wapsie. And Wapsie was 10-11, and we played them in the first round of the tournaments. We were 19-3, and they were 10-11.
Yeah.
And they beat us up in Maynard in the tournaments. And I took the phone off the hook for 2 weeks. And my mother sent my best friend down to see if I was still alive. Because she couldn't get a hold of me. It is a silly thing what our culture goes through.
69, 70, maybe the Iowa Hawkeyes had a tremendous team. They averaged 100 points a game.
Yeah,
that was
you
out
talked
of 3.
about that.
Yeah, and when that Florida team beat them, and I was so upset, I just couldn't believe it. I just was so bad. And so I just went and got in my car. I was you and I just went and got in my car and just drove around in the dark for a while, just trying to. I was so disappointed. I thought they were sure that they were the best team in America and they were going to go all the way. So you learn something from those games.
Yeah.
But they're hard lessons. Sometimes.
Yeah, they are. They are.
You have to teach kids, that if you're playing a game, you have one chance in 2 of winning. If it's
Right.
I mean, everybody wants to win. The other guys, they want to win as bad as you do. And so sometimes you're not going to win. You have to learn that. They have to learn because I had kids. I said, and I don't know what we were talking about. It was second graders, and I said, "Would you rather be on a team that was very, very good and never lost a game, but you never got to play? Or would you rather be on a team where you played all the time, but you never won any of the game? And they said they would rather be on the winning team and not play. You mean you would rather never get a chance to play just so you could say you're on a winning team instead of having the fun of playing basketball or whatever? Yeah, they wouldn't want to lose all the games. And so it was an interesting human.
You talk about kids wanting to play, and Dale, God, I love that. That's Grinnell's system. We talked about the Steve Brown Arts Center working on that documentary, and that is the Grinnell system, and I'm a big proponent of that. I really believe kids want to play, but they talk about they want to be on a winner. Kim Caldwell, she was at Marshall, right? They hired her
I only found her name.
Okay. All right. See if she was at Marshall last year.
And more information.
See if she was the Marshall women's coach last year. Kim Caldwell, I believe, was at Marshall. Blake is checking my facts right now, and she is a Grinnell system coach. She is one of the few in college. And she was interviewed like they are, the SEC is big time. I mean, Tennessee almost beat South Carolina this year in the SEC semifinals.
Yeah.
They asked her what her game was going to be like. She said, "I'm going to play a lot of kids. We're going to press a lot. We're going to go back and forth across the timeline a lot, which means they were going to run a lot." And they're going to shoot a lot.
Yeah.
Think of that. It's going to be an incredible game. It's the Grinnell system is going into SEC basket, and the University of Texas was one game away from the Final Four. They're going to the SEC next year. It's high level basketball. So I'm interested. I thought, God, I'd like to go down and watch. Tennessee is a storied program with Pat Summitt.
Yeah.
Excuse me, they were the Connecticut before Connecticut was good. Yeah. And so it'll be interesting how this goes.
Do you remember when Tom Davis became the Iowa coach, and he had a system, and they did a lot of running, a lot of pressing. And what I always thought this was really neat is, you were playing for him and you got tired, you would take yourself out of the game.
Yeah.
If you took yourself out of the game, you could put yourself back in when you wanted, when you were ready. But if he took you out, then you couldn't go back in until he put you back in.
Right.
And that was really a neat system, because then guys would not play till they were too tired just because they wanted to keep playing. They knew they could get back in.
Yeah.
And so I always thought that was a real neat system. And I liked the way he coached. He had that little spin on the ball, the wraparound pass.
Yeah.
He taught his players that, I think. And the first time I ever saw anybody like an alley-oop kind of play was one of his teams. And so I'm not saying he invented it, but it's the first time I ever noticed one. And he had Kingsbury that shot those long threes, like Caitlin Clark. That was a big deal when he was playing. So
he was everybody that I talked to, and he was a Wisconsin man. He coached high school basketball in Wisconsin, actually. Dr. Tom did. Everybody I talked to said what Dr. Tom did at Iowa, press that he ran, the 5-4-1 inbounds that he ran, he did all that with high school kids as well. He didn't do anything different. But
he was a real teacher, I thought, of basketball.
He was. He was. When he was at Drake, I went with Virgil down there, and we watched him practice. Incredibly kind, and stood and talked with us. They're very famous Iowa City High coach. The name doesn't come, but he was there the same day. It was just a neat. He broke down his practices. Everything, the 5-4-1 inbounds, the shots that they got off the break. They started practice with those individual shots that they got off. Then the next part was three people in a group doing stuff. Then the next part was all 5 people.
Yeah.
then any competition they did was at the end. And you're right. He was a good teacher. He's still alive.
Oh, yeah.
So this is Steve Brown Arts Center Podcast Network. Yesterday we had Commodore Schmidt at the Littleton Chatham Historical Society Pancake Breakfast. I hope y'all got out. We are showing Karma's art now at M's Coffee Shop.
Okay.
When you get a chance, stop over at M's Coffee Shop and see her art. We put it up this morning before we did the before the podcast came out today.
Have you heard any more about the young man who lost some of his pieces? Or
Last I heard from Nick, he is promoting the art show that's going to be at the New Bow
in Cedar Rapids, right?
In Cedar Rapids, May 4th.
Yeah.
So that's May 4th, Saturday, May 4th. Get down there if you're interested in that. Check that out with me. I don't have that on our calendar, Dale.
No, I was looking there. See, but May 24th is the Summer Welcome Buchanan County Tourism Center.
Yes.
And that's coming up. And we have a famous piano player showing up.
Carter Rout
is going to play, and very excited about it.
Good.
Enjoys doing that very much, he said.
And we're going to have a food truck there, and we'll be showing a surprise artist that day as well. Okay. So that's going to be at at the Buchanan County Tourism Center, which is located out at the depot there, out by the Independence Rec Center.
Yeah, just a little bit north of the tracks as you head north out of town on 150s.
All right, so please come to that. Although it'd be hard to beat the weather we've been having lately.
Oh yeah.
We are about to finish here, but before we finish, Dale, do you have anything for the better good of the Arts Center?
No, not really. I should paint a picture or something and hang it up. But no, I think you squeezed everything out of me up to date, I guess. So
we are working with the Independence Police and the Independence Sheriff's Department on a piece of art and culture for the people of our country, actually. Hopefully we have more information in the coming weeks for that.
You're branching out.
We are.
Yeah.
We are. If you would like to donate to the Steve Brown Arts Center or have an idea for an event, go to the SteveBrownArtsCenter.org and follow the link. If you have any news or would like to sponsor us, email us at jim@SteveBrownArtsCenter.org or call 319-290-0241 and leave a message. I'm Jim Gillespie. And with Dale Rueber and producer Blake Tempus. As always, thanks to Kelly C. Haas, the coordinator here at Cowork 591. Thanks to the audience for bringing these stray dogs into your day. And remember, day is about little victories.
So much.